What if I told you Hawkins Lab is not just a place of fiction, but based on a real location that's still standing? A place where children and runaways were taken away from their families, never to be seen again, to be experimented on. Is this abandoned building where similar events to Stranger Things happened in real life? I mean, honestly, what does Camp Hero hold within its abandoned walls? And the real question, are they really abandoned? Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the series yet, I'm not going to go in depth into the show, but I am going to talk about the parallels between Camp Hero and the Hawkins Lab. In the first season, we're given a tiny window into what the Hawkins Lab is actually trying to do. One of our main characters is 11, or Elle, as her friends come to call her. She's a confused child who's just escaped the Hawkins Lab, and we come to find later on in the episode that she's not just an ordinary child. She's gifted with these rare abilities that she was being taught to harness in the Hawkins Lab. She becomes more proficient as time goes on, and eventually she's able to defeat the Demogorgon at the end of the first season in the kids' school. At this point, she vanished into a portal into the Upside Down and found her way back through a second portal in the school where she had just killed the Demogorgon. And this concludes the first season. By the end of the second season, Elle goes on a journey to find herself and her mother, succeeding in both, and finds out that she was not the only child being held in the Hawkins Lab. When she returns home, she finds the portal that was held in the Hawkins Institute has grown, and then uses her powers to close it, and the Hawkins Lab is then decommissioned. So how does all of this tie in to Camp Hero? The U.S. Air Force commissioned Camp Hero in 1942 and was originally a coastal defense station that was disguised as a fishing community. Camp Hero was to be among the first lines of defense in the possible scenario of New York being invaded by sea. The rumors of child abductions and unnatural experimentation wasn't until the early 90s. At this point, nobody reported anything unusual about this place. Eventually, in 1984, the General Services Administration wanted to sell the entire facility, but there were protests about the delicate ecosystem that existed at Camp Hero. So the military reservations were decommissioned, and most of the facility, including Camp Hero, was donated to the National Park Service. For the locals of Montauk, Camp Hero being a place where the government experimented on wormholes and teleportation and psychic abilities, it's just one big joke. They believe that all of the rumors are nothing but rumors and none of it should be taken seriously. But isn't that how they fooled Hawkins? They were continuously sold a lie, and then they continuously bought that lie. So, where did these rumors come from, and is there any legitimacy to them? The Montauk Project is now considered to be debunked by nearly everyone. However, in his book, Preston Nichols tells of horrific Nazi-styled experiments that involve local kidnapped children, and how they experimented genetically and psychologically on these lost, forgotten kids. These themes are echoed in Stranger Things, as we come to find that 11 was never a willing participant. In fact, to push it even further, the original name of Stranger Things was Montauk. The entire series was going to be based in Montauk, New York, before they changed their mind and created the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana. It's because of this book that historian Henry Osmers finds himself frustrated with people blatantly ignoring the official military history of this place. But for one man, the official history of Camp Hero isn't the entire history. If you don't know who Joe Loffreno is, then stick around, because I'm going to talk about the parallels between 11 and Joe, and this actually brings us towards the end of Season 4, Part 1. In Season 4, after Elle realized she lost her powers, she is approached by the doctor that was later placed in charge at Hawkins. He says that she is capable of regaining her powers and that she needs to come with him because her friends and ultimately the fate of the world is in her hands. She chooses to go with him, and we come to find Elle has repressed memories of what else happened in the Hawkins Lab. She goes into a sensory deprivation tank with recordings of her time at Hawkins to reconnect synapses in her brain to bring back her powers. She realizes that she was bullied and hurt, and her friend that was a guard, whose name I don't remember, was actually the bad guy. By the end of the fourth season, we find out that Vecna was really Smitty Werben Jaegerman Jensen.
He was number one!
While there may not be a real-life Vecna that we know of, this theme of forgetting a traumatic past once again has supposedly happened to Joe Loffreno. Joe believes that he was kidnapped and taken through one of these gunnery tunnels where he was experimented on, and it was originally locked in his subconscious, but something opened up his mind and all the memories came rushing back. The following is a quote from Joe Loffreno. "I didn't believe it until 2 years ago. I was hypnotized by a certified hypnotist. for about 40 minutes, and all these memories flooded back. They did a very bad thing to us out there. We were just little kids. They had no right to experiment on us. It was a very dark, very evil thing. He said he was hooked up to wires while laying on a table, and they analyzed him and the 50 other children like animals. He said that he was tricked into coming to Camp Hero by a neighborhood boy nobody really knew, and that he was taken to a tunnel and escorted into a sunken-in house. After he was hypnotized, he walked over to where this hypnotic-induced memories told him this house was, and sure enough, there were the remnants of a sunken-in house. And he wasn't the only one to come forward. Preston Nichols, Al Bulick, and Stuart Swerdlow all say they were brainwashed and taken against their will. And while many of us may just say that he's mentally ill or unstable or that his words just can't be trusted, he's actually said to be an alright guy. He's had a girlfriend, he's had a long-term employment status with the park that he used to work at, and he's even supposedly got pretty good relationships with all of his kids. He's not some individual who's just unhinged and doesn't have any grasp on reality. He's just a normal person. So with all of these rumors in place, the kidnappings, the horrific experiments, wormholes, teleportation, psychic tests, there's definitely a lot of mystery still being held within these walls at Camp Hero. And if you've heard some of the stories of monsters running around Camp Hero, I'm assuming that they're talking about the Montauk monster, which is actually just a decaying dog. Or so we're told. So how much of this story is true? Was Joe Loffreno really kidnapped and experimented on along with the rest of the men that came forward? Did any of these supposed children have psychic powers of some sort? And could there really be a Demogorgon lurking beneath the unofficial tunnels below the base? It's funny because these tunnels are known to exist, but they're not on any official blueprints. So what else is being hidden at Camp Hero?